Howdy boys, it's MPC. In this video we're going to be ranking the top 10 best Pegassi vehicles in GTA Online. There's actually a lot fewer vehicles than I expected there to be, but I think Pegassi still has some pretty nice vehicles, so let's dive right in. First up we have the Pegassi Reaper. Now this thing is absolutely beautiful. I think when it first came out I was actually really hyped to get a new Pegassi vehicle because at the time there weren't so many good looking ones, and I think the Reaper is like, it's just a fantastic looking car, but I do have some complaints about it, unfortunately. That being that the Reaper doesn't have like any customization at all. You can throw on there's only 3 spoiler options. They're all ugly. This is just the one I threw on so that I would have a better traction, because this car doesn't handle well either. It's like very jerky. It kind of understeers a little bit, and it doesn't really feel good to like get it going. So aside from like the color changes and whatnot, it's just like there's not all that much you can do with the car, but I still think it's like a really good looking car, and I was very happy when it was added into the game. So that's why it made the list above like the Faggio. Top speed wise, I don't think this car is like anything impressive either, but I just think it's like, it's nice to whip out on occasion, but it kind of does like to swing out, just like you saw there, if you get it going in the corner the wrong way. And it's just not fun when your car flips. So I wouldn't say it's the best driving experience that a Pegassi vehicle has to offer, but I think it kind of just makes the list because it looks really cool. If for some reason you guys are interested in grabbing one of these, you can find it on the two-door section of Legendary Motorsports for $1.6 million. I don't really think it's a great investment of your money. It's a cool looking Lamborghini, but whenever I see someone driving one of these in online, I'm kind of just like why didn't you have something better to spend your money on? There's a lot of far better things, like literally anything higher on this list, but you do you. Next up we have the Pegassi Eschi. It's possible that some of you guys may have thought that this list was entirely just cars. However, Pegassi does actually have a few bikes. It has the Faggio, it has the Eschi, it has the Vortex, and the new Faggio as well. And I am a big fan of the Eschi. I just think it looks super cool, like super bougie kind of looking. I thought customizing this bike when the MC Businesses dropped was probably one of my favorites out of all of the bikes that was released. This bike just has like so much drip, you know. I feel like it was intentionally made to have a lot of style, have a lot of options that work well together, kind of like the new BF Surfer Custom. Like, it's not a car that exceeds in its performance, but I think it looks really good, and it's fun to customize. It's very deserving of making the list, you know. Even though there's not that many Pegassi vehicles, Pegassi does have some really high quality stuff, and this one is one of those for sure. There's just so many things that you can do with this bike. It allows for a lot of creative freedom when customizing, and I think BF injection moment. That's something that's really valued, I think, for GTA vehicles. I actually, one of the reasons why I like this bike so much is because Cole Sprouse, I think, has a bike that looks pretty similar to this one, and it's just really like bougie, kind of like retro looking, but it's also been more modernized with its customization, and so I just like, I'm a big fan of that. Like, it doesn't really have any reflection of the bike in game, aside from that I can appreciate its style a little more. The bike isn't all that quick, but it's kind of like the XA21 in the sense that there's no performance issues. Like, it's not the fastest bike, it's not a racing bike, but as far as a free mode vehicle, I think it's really enjoyable to drive around in general. The handling is decent, the speed is decent, the acceleration it's just like nothing to complain about, you know. It's not exceptionally fast, but it's not slow either. So that's why I enjoy this thing so much. If you guys are interested in purchasing one of these, you can find it on Southern San Andreas' motorcycle tab for $264,000. It's really just not that expensive. It's like half an hour of work, you know, like one business being sold, and you can buy yourself one of these. So super worth your money. I would definitely grab one of these if you can. Next on our list is the Pegassi Torero, the OG version, not the brand new XO. This thing is super cool. It's one of those cars that's just like really reliable. You are getting exactly what you paid for, and I think it's pretty much worth every penny. I wouldn't say it's worth more in my personal opinion, just because like it's a cool car, don't get me wrong, and It has a lot of customization options. It's got decent performance. I don't know what it is about it. It's just really enjoyable to drive in free mode, but that's kind of about it. I used to like this car a lot more before they added the like a bunch of the older versions of other cars in the game, like the Rapid GT, the Infernus, the Cheetah, and the Turismo Classics. But before all of those were added, this one was the OG retro car to be introduced into the game, and I think people loved it then, but it's been overshadowed since then. And I think part of the reason is because the rest of those cars are all competitive race-wise, and this one unfortunately is not. However, it is still a beautiful car nonetheless, and has a lot of customization. So I think if you were to invest in one of these, it would not be a bad purchase. Okay, so it looks like I was wrong. It was added right after the rest of the cars. That being said, it still kind of doesn't really hold its own. But I think if you were to buy one just to cruise around with and customize for fun, it's still definitely a very much worth it investment for only $1 million next to my baby, the XA21. Next up, we have the Pegassi Vortex. This bike is super cool looking in my opinion. It was kind of like the OG bikes that you could use were the Bati and the Akuma, and I think this one is kind of just like a fusion of those two. It's just a really cool looking Akuma, because that was my biggest problem with the Akuma, was that it didn't feel like it had a body, and it was just really boring to customize in general. This one has a ton of customization options, which I absolutely love. As you can see, I have a fat back tire and just a highlighted front tire, with a really cool like gray lime green theme going on. A lot of well-placed accenting placed in this bike, and I can really appreciate that, because it makes it so cool, you know? It's like I've never seen anyone else with a Vortex that looks like mine. It just makes it kind of a little more special. I don't think it holds up to today's standards against the Drag, the new Power Surge, and the Western Reaver, because two of those have a speed glitch, and this one was already kind of, it was upper middle pack, I would say, back in the day, but it's still like a really cool bike, and whenever I'm working as an MC president, this is definitely one of my go-tos for just spawning in next to me. It's just so cool. This is the cool side character bike, you know? It's like, it's not the main characters, because the main characters gotta have some a little more generic, but the side character that pulls up with drip and just has the sauce, this is their bike. If you guys are interested in picking one up, you can find it under the motorcycles tab of Southern San Andreas for $350,000. Super cheap. However, you will probably be pouring most of your funds into the customization, because it does have a lot, thankfully, as do all of the bikers' bikes. But I think this one just has some really cool looking options, and I wasn't disappointed at all, and hopefully you guys won't be either. Next up, we have the OG Pegassi Zentorno. I freaking love this thing. It was actually my first purchase in GTA. My first vehicle ever was the Zentorno. When they added new customization options, I was ecstatic. I was like so happy, because this car, honestly, it kind of needed it. It was it had a decent amount of customization options back then, but I think when it got like all of those, when it got a bunch of new options, it was just like such a quality of life improvement for this thing. The car has always and always will look super sick. Oh, whoa. That was sick. It's very like Batman looking with its wing. Similar to how the new Entity MT has a wing built just for it, the Zentorno does as well. Kind of like any other wing choice, you're just doing the car dirty. Like this one's literally built into the car. It looks so incredibly good. Performance-wise, this car definitely does not hold up to today's standards, but it's not bad. It's still a pretty quick car. It's still a pretty quick car just for free mode standards, but I think if you're looking for a race car, this is definitely not this car's forte. My only gripe with this car is that I think sometimes the back end seems a little like squishy. I don't know if that's a good word to describe it, but it's kind of like, it'll like hold well in the corners, but when it gets knocked off its course and like spins out or something, it really like loses its traction. The recovery is just a little tedious, but I think overall, but you know, for such an old car, I think this thing is still pretty sick. If you guys are interested in grabbing one of these, you can find it at the bottom of the two-door section of Legendary Motorsports for $725,000. I think it's a pretty good investment because it's not all that expensive, and with the brand new customization options being added, it makes it a lot more personalizable than it used to be, and it's still just a great looking car, so go cop. Entering into the top 5, we have the Pegassi Tempesta, former best supercar in the game. Actually, the Zentorno was too, but this thing was such a gem when it was first added because I think Pegassi was still lacking in their department back, and it was really nice to get a Huracan finally. And the Tempesta just like didn't disappoint, you know. It was the fastest supercar around the track. I think the only thing is that the customization is a little bit limited. While I have my car nicely customized right now, in my opinion, I think there are definitely some spoilers that could be better ingrained into the car because all of the wings kind of sit on top like this. This is the best one that I thought fit into the car, but even this kind of like hangs off the back and it's not like part of the car like the Zentorno or the Entity MT spoilers. That's something that they could definitely do better. Not a whole lot of exhaust options. There's just not a whole lot of customization on this car. There are cars with less, which is kind of sad, but you know, it is what it is. The Tempesta still looks like super good. I think this car is like, it's one of the hotter Lamborghinis in the game. It's not like a disappointment in any category, really. I think my one gripe with it is that it understeers a little bit, but it's completely manageable. I mean, it has to be if it was at the top at one point, you know. And it's still definitely a pleasure to drive around in free mode. It was kind of added right around the time that the Reaper was as well, and this one is for sure more worth your money than the Reaper. It has more customization options, which is sad considering how much I just talked about how little customization there was in this car. It handles a lot better. It just feels a lot more fluid as a car in general. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just a very fluid feeling car. It's a car that is more than the sum of its parts. Like, it's not the fastest in a straight line, and it understeers a little bit, but I think, you know, at the speed that it does go, it's able to stay quick in the corners, and it just makes for a very nice driving feeling. If you guys are interested in picking one of these babies up, you can find it under the two-door section of Legendary Motorsports, right above the Cunning Stunts vehicles for $1.33 million. Is it worth your money? If you're looking for a race car, no. But if you just want a fun free mode car that feels nice to drive, then yeah, go for it. Up next, we have the absolutely beautiful Infernus Classic. It's based off of the Lamborghini Diablo, in case you guys were not aware. I'm sure you guys are all aware. Everyone knows the Lamborghini Diablo. Everyone knows how beautiful it looks. And it is reflected very well in GTA. Rockstar did a fabulous job implementing this car, because usually what they do is they'll kind of like take two cars and fuse them together. But I think this one's done really well. It kind of just is a model of the Diablo. It does have quite a bit of customization options as well, which is really nice. It is a bit of a wider car, so I think when I'm driving it, I'm always worried about the back end like slamming into something, but I mean, as long as you're not like stupid with your driving, it's not like that big of a deal. The car looks sick. It feels great to drive. It performs well in the sports classics category. It's not quite at the top. The Cheetah and the Turismo Classic are still a little dominant, but this one definitely can hold its own. I think the main thing with this car is that it just looks like beautiful. It just looks so cool, and like you can rock it in crazy colors too. It's literally built for that. Like lime green and orange, I could totally see working on this car. It looks so good, and that's pretty much why it's so high in this list. Like, I guess if it handled worse, it would be lower, but I don't really have any complaints. It's not the greatest feel of driving I've ever experienced, but I don't have anything I want to nitpick all that much. So, you know, with the pop-up headlights and it just being a fantastic replica of the Diablo, I think that's plenty of reason for it to be thrown at number 4. If you guys are interested in picking one of these up, you can find it under the two-door section of Legendary Motorsports, right above the Tempesta, for $915,000. Entering into the top 3, we have the Pegassi Ignis. This thing is super aggressive looking. I didn't actually think that Lamborghinis could get more aggressive looking than the Zentorno. That one's already really sleek, and it looks like it wants to bully you. But this one is like the daddy bully. No, like the Zentorno, this is his boss. This is the gang leader. So this thing, it looks super sick, super menacing. The way I like to envision it is more of like the Zentorno of today. It doesn't have, you know, absolutely stellar performance, but it's just a really cool and aggressive looking car. This car on new gen consoles does have the HSW upgrade, which is a pretty big quality of life improvement. Unfortunately, I'm on PC, so I can't exactly give you guys my review on it, and maybe that's why it was placed lower than our top 2. But I think, you know, being in the top 3 still without having the upgrades is pretty, I think it's a pretty big achievement. One of the big reasons why I placed this car so high was because it has astounding customization. It was like, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I had never seen a video on this car, and I had so much fun customizing it. It's like I could get really creative. There's so many things that you can do with it. I doubt any 2 Ignises are ever gonna look the same, and it just feels good. You know, it feels good to know that your customization is unique, and that the car you drive is also not just, it's not a piece of very unique looking. There's nothing else that looks like it in the game, aside from the Zentorno, but you know, those 2 are in a category of their own still. Super awesome purchase, but gonna burn a hole in your wallet. It's literally almost $3 million. One of the most expensive cars. Of course, it's sitting next to the Dubachi Champion, which is almost $3 million. Dang, you know, now that I'm looking at this, they went 2.8. They did almost $3 million for 3 cars in a row. That's absurd. And the Ignis is the cheapest at 2.765. That's nuts. But, you know, if you're like saving up money and you're going to buy a new car, I think the Ignis is a fantastic choice, despite its expensive price tag. I would definitely take the Ignis of these $3 million cars than the other 2, because while they look cool, I think the Ignis just looks cooler and has more customization options and feels decent to drive. Number 2 on our list is the absolutely beautiful Pegassi Torres, which is based on the Lamborghini Urus. For those of you who are new to the channel, I am a huge fan of the Lamborghini Urus. It is my favorite car. It's my dream car in real life. I think SUVs are just so practical, and it's like, well, in GTA, you know, they're not as practical as in real life, because all a vehicle really needs to do in this game is take you from point A to point B. It's still just really cool to see in the game. The Toros does actually have some benefits besides being a very pretty looking SUV, that being that it is the fastest SUV in the game currently on PC and last gen consoles. Unfortunately, we don't have the HSW upgrades. It gets outclassed by just a little bit by the Astron HSW, which is the Porsche SUV, I believe. But this thing is still competitive nonetheless, no matter what platform you get it on, and it's just a really beautiful looking vehicle. The customization could be a little bit better. It's not bad by any means, but I feel like the options that they added to the car could have been a little more like worked with the build. Like, if you guys have seen some of the spoiler options, you know, not all of them look all that fantastic, and like I feel like seeing more skirts. I don't know. I'm kind of just saying this because I like to see, I like when cars have a lot of customization options, but I think this thing is kind of just carried by like its base build, which is fine. I don't even know like how I would change this car. Maybe some like framework on the back or like and the sides a little bit. I think that would make it a little more personalizable. But the car is just really, it's just a work of art, and it's kind of a tank. It's really heavy, which makes it great for driving in the snow. Actually, little spoilers in case you guys haven't watched the top 10 best snow vehicles, and do a little self plug right there. The Toros is available on the 4-door section of Legendary Motorsports for under $500,000. If there was one vehicle on this list that I would absolutely tell you to buy right now, it's probably this one, because it's just so worth your money. It's like $500,000 is nothing. Not only are you paying for a beautiful car, you're paying for good performance, you're paying for its weight. This car is like wifey material. Definitely go cop one of these. The number 1 best Pegassi vehicle in the entire game shouldn't come as a surprise to many of you guys. However, it does kind of pain me to say the Torero XO is a beast. Like, this thing is like, it is ridiculously fast. This car takes off as if it doesn't weigh anything. Because it doesn't weigh anything, I hate going over the corners in this thing. It sucks. It kind of feels like it's such a coin flip whenever you drive this thing, because it's like, it's either going to give you godlike performance or it's going to make you want to kill yourself. So I'm not going to say the snow is like the best reflection of its performance, but it is very quick. As you can tell, I got stopped right there, and I can just take off on a dime. This car has been featured in a few of my other videos, typically saying good things about it, but like I always have some gripes with this car. It's just like, it's so fast, which is like, you know, one of those things that's like, with great power comes great responsibility, because Definitely got to be careful when you're driving this thing, otherwise you're gonna get wrapped around a tree. When I first laid my eyes on it, I actually had like just hopped back on into GTA after a little bit of a hiatus, and this thing was like, I had to like scream when I saw it because it's just such a hot car. You know, this is a 20 out of 10. If you guys are looking for a car with good performance, I'm not going to say the handling is the best thing in the world. However, it is so ridiculously fast off the line, and it has a really, really high top speed. It actually puts the 811 to shame, which I had to find out the hard way. It was like sad, you know, because the 811 was the king for so long, and this thing comes along and just annihilates it. Like, it's not even close. This thing like tears up. So the Torero has a ton of great customization options as well, and not only that, but it has an active spoiler, which is like such a cool feature. It also has these the headlights that sink into the car. That's really dope. It's just so sick. I think this car is very deserving of the #1 spot because it looks beautiful. It has godlike performance. It has, you know, an active spoiler. It's got good customization options. There's a lot to complain about. They're good problems to have. So I think those are all the reasons why this thing deserves to be the #1 Pegassi vehicle in the game. If you guys are interested in picking one of these up, which I highly recommend you do, because it's probably one of the best vehicles that GTA Online has seen and will ever see. It's either under the featured or the two-door section, depending on when you're watching this video, and you can get it for $2.9 million. Big hefty price tag, but you're paying for greatness, so kind of worth it. As an honorable mention, the Pegassi Monero unfortunately didn't make the top 10, but I think it's a super dope OG car. Unfortunately, there's just not that much you can do with this car in general. It has a very, very limited customization. Like, literally, it's color and wheels. That's all you can do. So that kind of sucks, but it's a really dope looking car. I absolutely love the Monero. I've got a bronze on it right now, which I think is very fitting, considering it's pretty retro looking. I did have a phase where I love to drive the Monero around, but you know, because there's so little that you can do to it, all the Moneros in the game kind of look the same, so it makes it less special, which is why it is placed below the Reaper, which I am considering, you know, switching those two places, but I did think the Reaper is pretty cool. They're both cars that kind of just like have a sick name and fit that name, but they just don't have customization options, which sucks. Monero is a pretty sick vehicle, and I thought it deserved to be mentioned because I would feel like I would be heavily it's like disrespecting your grandparent, you know? It's like, I used to have a Monero, and if I didn't mention it, I would be doing a disservice to the world. I would be not appreciative of what it's done for me and what it's done for the game. That's going to be it for this top 10. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed the video, comment down below, and let me know what you thought of my ranking. I think I covered all the cars that should be on this list because Pegassi doesn't have that many vehicles unless you're a huge fan of the Faggio. But yeah, I think what should be on here is on here. So let me know how you guys would order yours. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. There'll definitely be more content like this coming out in the future. This entire week is going to be top 10, so you guys can look forward to that. That's about it. So take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.